All right, Nick, let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines. This is the team that I think people are too down on. People give them overly harsh criticism because I think this is a team that when you break it down, when you look at what is going on with the Wolverines, they are set to be a contender. They are set to be a team that's going to challenge in the Big Ten once again, and they're going to set to be a team that is going to have a lot of really good stuff happen for them this year. We've got some articles and some data to corroborate just that. I think Wolverines fans are going to love this one. But first, I'm Andrew. That's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, really good stuff on the horizon for the Michigan Wolverines. Let's jump into the article and then we can get into the data on everything on the other side. This, of course, is over from Wolverines Wire. It says in Lindy's, the magazine, National College Football Preview, an anonymous source, likely a coach, noted in the scouting report that the Wolverines perhaps were still a difficult team to face. Said, yeah, Michigan was still mostly a tough out, and this year's no different. The anonymous source told Lindy's. Look, last year was kind of a weird season for them. Sharon Moore was thrown into the fire. That was a tough spot. Now there's the self imposed suspension thing, but honestly, he did a solid job, and all things considered, they were a little beat up. Their depth was tested. Bringing in Justice Haynes from Alabama, I got to say, that can go, the source said. The perfect fit for Michigan, wants to do on offense. He's got that one cut and go style. Schroen has already said he sees some Blake Cororm comparison. That's pretty high praise. He's got to get him 250 touches. Again, they go and talk about Jair Hill, another name that you need to know on the defensive side of thing. Long, physical, tracks the balls, and he can declare a really big year for the Wolverines. I think this is really great, already showing that everyone is kind of down on Michigan, but this guy knows, hey, Michigan's still a really tough team, and they've gotten a very important piece here in Justice Haynes, a guy that can really be their next Blake Corum, can go out here and do a lot of really good stuff. Let's, in fact, compare Haynes to Blake Corum and see just how these guys match up. And over here, we have our chart comparing Justice Haynes to Blake Corum. Justice Haynes last season from last year versus Blake Corum's last season in college. And there's some advanced analytics here, I think, showing it's really hard to compare these two guys, apples to apples, yards to yards, just because Blake Corum got so many more carries than Justice Haynes did. But when you look at the details and you look at what they were able to do with what they got, Justice Haynes is a pretty solid player. So first up on the left-hand side, we have their yards per attempt. What were they able to do with the attempts given? How many yards are they averaging? So 4.8 yards per attempt for Blake Corum versus Justice Haynes. He's getting 5.6 yards per attempt in his own right. So a little bit better than Blake Corum in that aspect. Next up, we have yards after contact on average. Again, let's show how hard of runners these guys. When they get nicked, when they get bumped, can they keep going? Can they keep the run alive? Yards after contact on average. Blake Corum was averaging 2.56 yards after contact, where, again, Justice Haynes edges him out just a little bit. 3.21 yards after contact for Haynes. Almost a full yard there after contact, more on average for him. I really like that. I think that's good, especially for a guy of Haynes' size. I think that's really important here. Then finally, the one I think is the most interesting, and there's the biggest disparity here. This is missed tackles forced on average. So, given the opportunity of the attempts given, how many times is that attempt are they going to force a missed tackle? We look at Blake Corum, 9% of the time he was able to force a missed tackle. I think he had over 200 attempts here. But we look at Justice Haynes on his attempts, 17.9% of the time he's able to force a missed tackle. So what are we seeing here? Justice Haynes really can do some good explosive runnings, averaging 5.6 yards a carry. That's really, really great. He can run through people. He doesn't go after contact easily, even better than Blake Corum in that aspect. Really great, 3.21 yards after contact on average. And then finally, he makes guys miss on a whole nother level, basically double of what Blake Corum was able to do Justin Haynes 17.9% of the time on an attempt, he's going to make someone miss. That's almost a quarter of a time if we run out. 1 out of 4 chances, he's going to make him miss. This guy doing really, really good work. I really like Haynes. I think he's going to be a valuable upgrade on the running for the running back department for Michigan. I think it's going to be a big part of why these guys are coming out and saying, "Hey, we don't really want to face Michigan. It's not a team anybody wants to play. They're very tough to go up against, and I think it's going to be a problem this year." Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick. But before we get to you, Wolverines fans, in the comment section below, we're talking running backs here. And there's a lot of great running backs in Michigan history, but can only pick one. Let us know, who's your favorite Michigan Wolverines running back of all time. I know Blake Cororm, a new, recency bias type of name, really great guy in his own right. But let us know throughout history, who is your favorite Michigan's Wolverine running back of all time in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on this latest out of Michigan?
So if we just take a step back and just look at what Michigan accomplished last season and where they are going into this season, if you had a program that said, okay, they beat the eventual national championship team and then they beat Alabama in a bowl game, you would say that's a really, really good football team, undeniably on the upswing, especially when you consider that was in the first year of a new head coach after losing other key members of the coaching staff. So let's just focus on that for a second. Michigan last year, new head coach, new coaching staff in terms of losing some pieces of guys who followed Harbaugh to the NFL. Obviously, they had a lot of drama, a lot of issues going on with all the news and all the hoopla with that. And despite all that, they beat the eventual national championship team, and then they beat Alabama in a bowl game. We call that success, right? We call that a good season. We call that a team on the upswing. And then let's take that same team, and then they got significantly better at the most important position on the field. That's the quarterback position with the emergence of Underwood. And they got better, significantly so, based on the data you showed, at the running back position with the addition through the transfer portal. We would say that's a very dangerous football team, and we would be correct, right? This is a very sneaky good Michigan squad. People looked at what happened because they had the early season big noon game against Texas that was ugly. They had the Oregon defeat that was ugly. Even their wins, like they beat USC, for example, that was it was not a very, obviously they threw for like 30 yards in the game. It was not a very aesthetically pleasing kind of game. But by the end of the season, defensively and in terms of their physicality, they were playing at the same level they were when they were winning the national championship the year prior. They just didn't have the quarterback or receiver play that they had the previous year. That's going to change with Underwood coming into the fold, even as a very young player, expecting more out of the receiving group as well. And of course, the running game is going to get better too when you look at the additions of Haynes. I think the numbers you brought up are absolutely outstanding, talking about the trajectory of him in aligning with the Michigan program for this 2025 season. A lot of people look at the Big Ten and they say it's Ohio State, and then will Penn State continue to disappoint? Will Nebraska finally break out? How good is Oregon going to be this year? That another transfer quarterback. Is USC going to finally return into to some level of competency, right? Those are the headlines. Those are what's really dominating conversation in the Big Ten. People aren't focusing on Michigan right now, and I'm just going to hamper it. If you just forgot everything and just focused on the facts I just mentioned, you beat the eventual national championship and then beat Alabama in a bowl game, and then got better at quarterback and got better at running back, you would say that team is a lethal team. That's a team that's going to make a lot of noise. They may be the favorite to win the conference. No one's treating Michigan that season, but when you focus on those data points, that would indicate a favorite, right? Now, look, obviously there's more things that go on than the things I mentioned, right? They did lose some guys to the draft in terms of on the defensive side of the ball, specifically Graham. What's going to happen with a freshman quarterback? A lot of things could be volatile. They had some ugly games last year, of course, but still, just focusing on just a high-level 30,000-foot view, 50,000-foot view, this is a team trending in the right direction. Sharon Moore put in a very tough position last year, did a really nice job. Obviously, we got the self-imposed things going on this season, so there'll be a little bit more drama, but then I think we can finally put all that behind us. And despite all of that, though, this is a program doing a lot of good things in the recruiting department. This is a program doing good things with some key transfers. Of course, Haynes at the top of the list. I think we're looking at a Michigan team that's going to surprise a lot of people. People saw what Michigan looked like at like week 8, week 9, losing to Indiana, losing to Oregon, and they said, oh, Michigan, 6-win season again, 7-win season. That's who they are from now on. And then they ended the season on such a high note. And because a lot of people thought Ryan Day was going to get fired after losing to Michigan, we kind of forgot that Michigan beat the national championship team. Ohio State won the national title. We said, what a story for Ohio State. Credit for credit is due, to be totally honest, there for them. But Michigan beat them. And then they beat Alabama and Jalen Milroe, who's doing good things right now with the Seahawks in the NFL, and a very, very talented Alabama squad in the bowl game. This is a team, again, focusing on those just data points by itself, and then you look at the quarterback position for them now. They are deadly. They are serious. They are a real threat in the Big Ten. And of course, it is still Michigan and all of the value they have in terms of their recruiting, their brand, and all of that will make them a force just based on that alone. They're going to be a serious threat in the Big Ten. I would argue they are kind of a sort of sleeping giant. Don't be surprised if you wake up at the end of November and this is a 10 or 11 win team heading into that game against Ohio State. They are that good at the positions that matter, at least on paper. Again, you don't win games on paper. We'll have to see what happens when the game actually starts. But if you look at where the Wolverines are today, and you can see based on this coach, reportedly a coach, an anonymous source here saying they're a very serious threat, when you actually look at them and take a step back and ignore the media and just look at the facts, you can see why this coach reached that conclusion. This is a very, very good team in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, Nick, and two more things I think are really important here is we look at the schedule for Michigan as far as top teams that they have to play this year is from last year. Really, the only big team on that schedule, again, is Ohio State. And yes, Ohio State's going to be tough, but like you said, already beat them. So that's great as well. But I want to circle back to Justice Haynes one more time. You talk about Alabama, makes me look at them, bring it up. This is a team in Alabama that was the 14th best team in the country at running the ball. I know Jalen Milroe had a little bit to do with that as well. But you look at Justice Haynes, when you compare him to their other running back that got basically double the carries in Jam Miller, Justice Haynes is better than that guy in every aspect. He has over like 1.2 yards per carry on average, better than them. When you look at explosiveness, as far as like long runs he's able to break off, Justice Haynes has an 85-yard as his longest run versus a 50-yard one for Jam Miller. Not a bad run, but again, just showing more explosiveness. And on half the carries, Justice Haynes has exactly the same amount of touchdowns as he did, 7-7 there, just showing Justice Haynes is a really big get off a team that was 14th in the country in running the football. Michigan last year, 57th in the country in running the football. They need someone to come in here and help elevate this team. I think Justice Haynes is that guy. I think if they feature him a little bit, he's a little bit better than Jam Miller in a lot of the advanced metrics and stats you see. I think Justice Haynes is the guy to feature. Heck, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, for God's sakes. This is a guy that's really, really talented running back. I think Michigan got a great addition here. I just think overall, this team is set on the right trajectory. Like you said, wake up November time. We see this team being 10-plus wins. Don't be surprised that something very special is going on down in Ann Arbor.